As we try to navigate addressing workforce needs, one of the many very effective tools are aviation career expos. Whether they're at airports or schools or existing aviation conferences and conventions, these events allow for a large group of young people to learn more about our incredible industry. Late last year, I was at one such event, ProJet Aviation's annual Career Expo that took place out at Leesburg Executive Airport. They had hundreds of high schoolers at this well-organized event, which had several highlights, such as the United States Army Golden Knights parachute team. I actually got to go up with them on their jump. And in case you're wondering, no, I stayed in the plane. However, I was very impressed, so now I'm game to make that leap, so to speak. There was also the United States Air Force Honor Guard drill team. Man, they were mind-blowingly impressive. But the most significant highlight was watching this Aviation Expo give away thousands of dollars in a variety of aviation scholarships. It was really cool. So, to capture a glimpse, just a glimpse of the various exhibitors, I had a chance to catch up with three who represent three very different aspects of the industry. First was our colleague of mine, Greg Voos. Greg is the Southeast Regional Director for NBAA, the National Business Aviation Association. And he's a little busy covering 12 states, last time we counted. That includes Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Florida. Now, while that sounds incredibly busy and truly is, his job is actually a pretty cool one. He interacts frequently with the many small airports throughout his region. We call those general aviation airports. He engages regularly with local, county, and state political leadership. And he stays in touch frequently, as often as possible, with corporate flight operations throughout his region. Next is Al Hardy, the CEO of Career Xpl, which provides career exploration and experiences for K through 12 schools, including technical colleges, as well as employers and other stakeholders. Al's company helps prepare learners to explore and thrive in the ever-changing workforce. That includes adult learners who are in community education and continuing education programs. And then introduced to me by the National Agriculture Aviation Association, who knew there was a thing, I met Emily Daniel with Wings Aerial Applicators. Sound fancy? Well, her company takes AG flying to an entirely different level. A long-time and very experienced AG pilot, Emily tells us how agricultural flying can be one of the best and most rewarding aviation careers that no one ever bothered to tell us about. Welcome to this very special edition of All Things Aviation and Aerospace. I'm Vince Mickens. Hey, let's rock and roll with these really great interviews.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace. We are here live at Leesburg Executive Airport at the ProJet Aviation Education and Career Expo. And with me is Greg Voos from NBAA. He's a regional director over about a dozen or so states for NBAA. Greg, welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Besides the fact that we're colleagues and friends, it's really good that you're here for this Career Expo. Julie has been doing this now for this is her 16th year. And they bring in 1,000 kids from high schools from all over the region and bring them in and let them be exposed to about 70 or so exhibitors from all walks of life in terms of whether it's military or charter and some of the other aspects of aviation. Even aviation insurance is here, Avemco, et cetera, and so forth. Of course, NBAA is here and some of the other associations. Let me ask you, first of all, the straightforward question. What motivated you guys to be a part of this Career Expo?
Well, we're here, NBAA, the National Business Aviation Association, we're not per se a direct employer for these students. We'll probably have a few internships, but for the most part, we're here in support of all of the other exhibitors that are out here. Most of these exhibitors are business aviation, general aviation vendors, employers, and we're here in support of those folks, as well as some of the other sister organizations as well.
Yeah. So one of the great things about NBAA is the association for business aviation, in the sense that your organization covers every aspect of the industry, from safety to operations to international operations. You guys do a lot with the regional aspect of it, and I could go on and on. Tell us a little bit more about you and what your responsibility is as a regional director.
My role as the Southeast director is to be the conduit for the organization, the association, to be the eyes and ears on the ground, get all the information that's happening in my region back to the DC headquarters, where our experts are. They don't have the time. They're involved in many initiatives and projects, and they really don't have the time to be out in the region as often as they would like. So the purpose of our program is to be the eyes and ears, to create those relationships locally and at the state level that will help the national organization become a better organization, because they're more in tune with what the issues are.
Yeah. One of my guests from before, Misha, is here, who's has a scholarship with the Red Tail Flight Academy up there in New York. I'm sorry that Misha's not able to join us because of some audio issues with the technical issues here with Wi-Fi, etc. But I overheard you and Misha talking before we rolled tape on this. Now I just told on myself, we don't roll tape anymore, before we hit the record button. But I heard you guys talking, and I heard her asking you questions about interviewing style and things like that. And you were giving her some really great advice. Can you share again what you would recommend to these young people that are here at this expo, in terms of how interviewing can work best for them when they're applying for a scholarship, an internship, and things of that nature?
Absolutely. As far as an in-person interview, I can tell you from being on the management side, interviewing prospects, that you really want to see the authentic individual. You're there, you're in the interview, you've made it to the interview because you do have those core competencies, and we're aware of those already. What we want to see is the real person. How will this person react and be a part of the team over the long term? So we're looking for the individual to express in an authentic way what they're all about, what their interests are, what their hurdles are, what their aspirations are. And then we can gauge whether this individual is a good fit for the organization. And same goes for scholarships. It's really important for students to be in tune with what they're putting in an application for, to be aware if they're putting in an application for a business aviation scholarship, that should be what they're striving to be or have an interest in. You see so many that will put in and they're not aware of the details that they're professing on an application, when in reality, if they just put in what was it, find what interests them and seek out those scholarships in that pathway, and they'd be much more successful.
Yeah. One of the things that we have talked about, and that is really key in terms of young people looking for opportunities and that type of thing, is they always want to know what the journey is. What's my journey going to be? And we can't really tell them that, because everybody's journey is different, and a lot of people's expectations change along the lines. And what I mean by that is, somebody goes to an aviation-oriented university, they do the professional pilot track, they finish, and then something like the pandemic hits, and then there's a delay with everything, and they're like, okay, do I still want to be a professional pilot? Or even without something like that happening, they just think, well, do I really want to do that? Do I want to fly corporate? Do I want to fly airlines? And one of the things, so I'm thinking of two things as I'm saying this. One is that most people think of airlines first because business aviation doesn't jump on their radar per se. And a lot of people don't realize that a business aviation career, flying corporate, flying charter, et cetera, can be a fantastic career. Flying some really great equipment, doing some really great type of flying and places you fly, et cetera, and so forth. Can you kind of, along with giving us a little bit of your background, give us your perspective on that, of what I just said about business aviation as an option?
Sure. Business aviation, we're our own toughest hurdle, because naturally advertising our existence is not what we normally do. We're under the radar is the common phrase. And so naturally we're not out there advertising. Our logos aren't out on our tails, aircraft tails. You're not going to see our logo on our hangar. So really you're exactly right. A school could be right down the street from an airport, from a flight department, and the students would never know that they existed. So it is important now, especially with the workforce shortages from tech to pilot to operational, that flight departments, companies as a whole do a better job of getting out there and showing students that there is a viable option to the airlines. The airlines are great. I spent 17 years with Delta Airlines before Home Depot.
I was going to ask you your background. So
yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've been in operations all my life. I'm not a pilot. It was a different time. Things are done differently. The way I advance may not be the way you could even advance now. It's just different. But it was an enjoyable career. But you owned a slice of the pie. That was the biggest understanding I've got working for the airlines. I was responsible for a set parameter for a certain period of time. And then once that time was up, there was another shift that came in and took over my problem. Well, in business aviation, you own the whole thing. You own the whole pie. So it's up to you to help solve it. And you're just a small team. So you're wearing a lot of hats. You're getting a lot of exposure. You have a lot of responsibility that the team is relying on to be successful. So to me, that's the difference, is owning part of the pie or being responsible for the success of owning the whole pie. And so that's what I enjoy about business aviation.
As we wrap up, tell us real quick, what did you do for Home Depot? So after doing the airlines, what were you doing?
I moved over to Home Depot after 9/11, when a lot of the airlines were struggling, and my airline, Delta, was in the same boat, just a little bit later. And I had the opportunity to go over to Home Depot's corporate flight department and get into their operation. And I enjoyed it. I spent 10 years there before moving on to NBAA. And in the end, I was in charge of their operations, in charge of the regulatory, and in charge of the finance for the hangar. So again, a lot of opportunity. You move in, they see your skill sets, and it's really your own interest, your own desires that push you forward. So there's so many different avenues in business aviation. If you just take the time to check us out, I think students would be surprised.
Gotcha. Hey, listen, thanks, Greg, for taking the time. Sorry about the technical delay, but I'm glad you were able to join us, and really great to see NBAA as part of this valuable career expo for kids that are interested in aviation. These are all high school kids that are here, and this is a great way to introduce them to what we know is a great industry and what's a thriving industry right now, and really growing. So again, I thank you. Look forward to seeing you at the next aviation event.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
And as we continue talking to all these great people that are here at the ProJet Aviation Education and Career Expo, I have a kind of a unique one. I've talked about this a little bit on previous show, or at least one previous show, but now I get to kind of get it directly from somebody that is as entrenched as you can be. And her name is Emily Daniel. Emily, welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. So I was walking around the show and I saw NAAA, National Aviation Agriculture Association.
Yeah, the National Agricultural Aviation Association.
Okay, I had it. Yeah, Anyhow, but we know what it has to do with, and that's agricultural flying. and advocating for the industry and that type of thing. It's really great to talk to someone directly involved in the industry. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about, tell us about ag flying, how you got into it, what it's like, and what it means in terms of a potential career for people.
Sure. I think ag flying is actually often an overlooked career. But basically what I do on a day-to-day basis is I treat crops with different kinds of products. I could treat anything from a cornfield to forestry to doing mosquito control for towns and things like that. So it's a wide variety of things that we can do. And it all just has to do with soil health and plant health for the good of the agricultural industry.
So one of the questions that I'm compelled to ask, because, and not to put you on the spot, but because of the environment that we're in these days in terms of people being concerned about the environment, what can you tell us about that, and what's being done to kind of protect people as you're spraying the crops?
Yeah, absolutely. So the industry has come a long way. We actually just celebrated our 100th anniversary of ag aviation last year. And in those 100 years, the technology has changed immensely. We no longer have people in the fields. We have GPSs and very high-tech software that goes in the airplanes. We can see the fields and know the exact boundaries before we get there. And we can take all of that data back out of the airplane when we're done and kind of go over what we do. We also have onboard weather systems and other smoke systems that let us know the weather and the wind direction and speed. So there's just some technological aspects of that. Additionally, I always tell people I'm not a chemist and I'm not, the scientist that made the product. But these products actually go through over 120 different types of testing before they're released. And we actually have to go through special training in order to handle those products. So we can do anything from conventional to organic products to seed to fertilizer. And all the flying that we do, we work with the FAA, we work with our local towns to mitigate any risks to the public if there are any.
Yeah. A lot of people go to school to become a professional pilot, and they're either thinking about being an airline pilot. If we're lucky, they may even be thinking about being a corporate pilot or flying in business aviation. I'm a little biased on that one, but there's such a variety of careers in aviation, but you don't hear people that often talk about ag flying. So if somebody is, let's say they finish college, or maybe they're on a professional pilot track, so they're working through their ratings, et cetera, and they discover ag flying, and they discover that that's something that they want to do. What's the next steps? What's the first step, and what should they be doing to make that happen?
I'd say the first step is to start networking. This is kind of one of those industries, just like your business flying, where it's all about networking and getting to know people in the industry. So we have a national convention, and we also have local state conventions every year. And I would suggest reaching out to people in these organizations or even attending the convention and getting to know those people. When you meet them and you find someone that you trust, you can apply and hopefully they hire you. And you'll generally start on the ground, which can be a barrier to entry for some people because you have all these ratings and the last thing you want to do is sit on the ground and watch other people fly. And that's one of the biggest things that we try to give people an opportunity to fly when they're loading for us. But the first step is to learn the products and learn the application. So we're not only pilots, but we're also applicators as well. And I think that's a big step, a big thing that people don't realize that we do.
Yeah. So what are the requirements? I mean, what do you have to do? How many hours do you have to have, or what rating requirements and training requirements do you have where they will eventually qualify to get in the seat of one of those?
Sure. There's actually not that many, believe it or not. You just need a commercial license, and a restricted commercial will do. I recommend that everyone get their instrument rating as well because of the low level flying we do. You also, if you're going to be flying a tailwheel airplane, need a tailwheel endorsement. For the FAA side, that is all you need, as well as a Class 2 medical. On the other aspect of it, we talked about the products that we apply. You do have to be licensed in every state to apply these products. So you need the appropriate pesticide licenses in each state. And many times they will reciprocate, but many times you're taking 2-3 tests per state to be able to apply in that state.
Yeah. How do you, there aren't a lot of women ag pilots. So first of all, what attracted you to it? And secondly, how do we get more women or let more women know, besides programs like mine, know that there's a possibility of another aspect of an aviation career, such as ag flying?
That two great questions. I'll keep my personal story very short. I am a 3rd-generation pilot. My grandfather was a traditional crop duster back when they used dust as products. My dad was an airline pilot and taught me how to fly. And I had always I never realized this was an option for me. Only men did this growing up where I was. And they always said, like, oh, you don't want to do this. This isn't a job for women. And I actually met my husband. We flew into the same airport one day, and his dad owned another crop dusting company. And they said, why don't you come check it out? And after we started dating, I worked for the company. I loaded on the ground. I fueled airplanes. I mixed everything. I worked with the maps and I worked with customers. And honestly, it was there that I fell in love with the kind of work, because to me, it was really meaningful work. You don't get a lot of awards. You don't get recognition, but you do from the farmer's standpoint. And knowing that you're putting literal food on the table and helping farmers in such an integral way, it really just kind of resonated with me. And to go to your second point, getting more women in this. So less than 1% of agricultural pilots in the United States are women. I'm not even sure if we're in double digits yet, but I'm trying to get there for next year. I think a big part of this is just exposure. And I think I put myself on social media quite a bit, and I'm not a very social person, believe it or not. But I think it's just the exposure and letting them know that it's an option for them, and a non-traditional option, and something that they can do. If they see someone else in this industry, then they will believe that they can do it too.
Absolutely. Well, this is really great to talk with you about this and hear about the opportunities. It's also kind of cool to hear how you started at the ground level, so to speak, and had to work your way up. So it's not only you recommending that, but you had to do that yourself. The other thing that's interesting, though, is you have a little entrepreneurial spirit in you, because you've gone from working in the industry to actually having a business in the industry. You want to tell us a little bit about what was it called? The Wings Aerial Applications?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started on the ground. It was for my father-in-law's company. And I was that pilot that watched everyone else fly. And I said, wow, I really want to do that. And my husband and I actually traveled for a couple of years while he was in Air Force pilot training. And we returned. He was in the Guard. We returned back to New Jersey. And at that point, we decided that we were ready to take over the business. So I've got quite a bit in loans, but we bought the company from his father a few years ago. And we've actually grown it from a 2-airplane company up to a 6-airplane company. And we operate in about 14 different states around the United States. And it's been an amazing journey. Additionally, we also are farmers. So we like to say that we're farmers flying for farmers. We own a cranberry farm in New Jersey, and it's just a blast to do both of those things. And it's been a journey becoming a business owner and learning all those things.
Yeah. I thought it was funny because before you came on, we were talking about, I was asking you, so what airport are you based at? And you said, how about a farm? And I thought, well, yeah, of course. That makes a lot of sense. I've got to, as we wrap up, I just have to ask, this is pilot to pilot. What's it like to fly, to fly agricultural, to fly in that small, fast aircraft, fast and slow, and lots of maneuvering?
So it's kind of like a rocket ship. I always tell people that I don't get in the airplane; I strap the airplane on, and it's amazing. We operate at speeds between 130 to 150 miles an hour going across the field, and it truly feels like you're flying a rocket ship.
Wow. Well, that's pretty good. I'm really glad we could meet you and have you on. I hope you enjoyed being here at the Career Expo. Was this your first one?
This is, yes.
Okay, yeah. It keeps growing every year. This is her 16th year, and it's really great to see her bring out so many kids and expose them to all aspects of aviation. So I was really glad to see Ag get your just due as well, Ag Flying. So thank you for being on the show, Emily.
Thank you so much.
Stay safe, and we'll see you soon, probably at some aviation event. As we continue here with the ProJet Aviation Education and Career Expo, I'd like to introduce you to someone else who has joined us. And he and I have actually been in touch with some things that he's doing in aviation geared towards bringing more young people and young people of color into the industry. So I'd like to introduce you to Al Hardy. Al, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, Vince?
Good. It's great to see you. Glad to see you here. You had mentioned when I saw you at NBAA that you were going to be here. So first of all, tell us how the day's been going here. What have you seen? What are you liking?
Well, it's really been a good event. It's a first time coming here. I came to this through a referral, actually from NBAA. And I called up Julie O'Brien, and she told me about Career Expo and some of the other things that they were doing here. And I was like, well, this sounds like a place that I really do need to visit. And it's turned out to be everything that she said it was. Not only have we met some great students, our future, we have made some good contacts as well.
Absolutely. So who is Al Hardy? Tell us about you and your program. And I'm all tangled up in my cord here.
That's all right.
Tell us about you and your program and what you're doing.
Well, I am from a small place in called Rockford, Alabama, and we're a very rural area. We have somewhere close to 12,000 people in about 600 square miles. So you can imagine, what's that like. I started in the technology career field because I started in the National Guard. I started out in Intel, actually. And I started out in photographic processing. And interestingly enough, I went active duty. We were working with the SR-71 program at RAF at Mildenhall, and I'd heard about this new system coming in. And so one day I came into work. They said, "Oh, it's here, and you want to come and see it?" So I went in, and they were downloading images from computer tapes. The photographic processing that I was used to had hundreds of gallons of chemistry, hours in a dark room. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I need to find me another job, and quick. So that led me to look for a more kind of technological job. So I ended up in what's called biomedical equipment repair. But as I moved through that career, and switched over to the Army, become a warrant officer program, it was more along the lines of asset management, where you took a look at the asset life cycle of a platform, no matter whether it's a piece of medical equipment or an aircraft. So in that, I became an instructor, and I really liked being an instructor. I became an instructor supervisor. I also was SME for, I think, blocks 1 through 3. Which dealt with a lot of electronics. But in that, I also had to learn, because of my job, pneumatics, hydraulics. We even learned how to plumb and sweat pipe. So we had a lot of different type of career opportunities there. But in asset management, you're not so much looking at the repair, but really what it takes to get the value out of any asset from, like I said, no matter whether it's from an automobile or from a piece of medical equipment, CAT scan, or even a jet aircraft, eventually when I started working with aviation in aerospace. So that's kind of where what my background is. Now, where my business came from is actually started from a conversation with my wife and I, Stasia Hardy, on a trip from Walmart.
Wow.
Yeah. We were talking about, because me being on the technical side and looking at trying to get people trained for jobs, including aerospace and aviation, we knew that there was always an academic side. So we were talking on a trip in Walmart about really where the two meet and how can we effectively help that to happen, where we can take a look at a student or schools and their academic performance standards, really what they are focused on doing, how to map those into specific career paths in a way that doesn't seem overburdensome to the school, because the school has a purpose. The school tries to get these academics and performance outcomes from students. And even though you may have the greatest sounding program in the world, if it doesn't fit within the mission that they have, those strategic goals that they have for the benefit of the students, it's going to be hard for them to implement it, even if they want to. So our goal is how to make that a very easy thing to do for the schools and how to map it so that they can see definitively how it fits within their strategic goals, their school plans for those students, those things that they are held responsible for, whether they're a teacher or a principal or a superintendent.
So how have you tied that into aviation? You're working on some things in the state of Indiana and maybe some other places. Bring us up to speed about that.
Yeah, so what we did is that we took that same philosophy. One thing within Indianapolis Public Schools, we noticed that they did not have a set aviation pathway. So what we wanted to do was help the counselors really make the students aware of what those opportunities are within aviation aerospace. So two of the counselors there, I don't want to mention their names because I don't want to, I don't necessarily have their approval, but there have been two counselors there that have that's been very instrumental in helping to get the information out to the students and to be that interface between us and the schools. So what we did is that first thing we did is that we looked at the Indiana State Academic Performance Standards for science, math, and ELA. And then so that we could make sure that we understand what the school was trying to do, we took a look at the school strategic plan as well. And we had conversations with their, they call it the academies there, but basically their CTE programs, their career and the work-based programs. We had that conversation to really make sure that we understand where they are and what they were trying to do. So once we understood that, we mapped those academic performance standards into the CTE standards that matched what industry was trying to do as well. So once we did that, we took the academic performance standards, talked to the CTE people, the academies people, make sure we understand what they were trying to do. And then with our understanding of what industry and our industry advisors was telling us that they needed, we matched those two together so that they could see that clear path, that how they were connected. Therefore, it's easier for them to be able to go and justify in getting those out of class times that they need, because they know when they come to our programs, it is going to be tied to what they are trying to accomplish with their kids and with their programs there in Indianapolis Public Schools. And that is really our approach all over. It's the same no matter where we go.
Got you. And does mentorship come into this at all in terms of what you guys are putting together or are collaborating on?
Yes, we ourselves, we don't offer the typical type of mentorship that I think you're mentioning here, but we definitely tie and connect the students to those people who can offer that mentorship.
Got you. So as we kind of have to wrap up here, but lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you, basically, with what you've seen today, and you've been to these different types of aviation career expos, but with what you've seen today, what kind of advice would you and your wife give to these young up and coming, aviation professionals or aspiring aviation professionals?
Seek and you shall find. Really engage, talk to people, engage with your counselors. Your counselors are there for you. We can help provide, our company can help provide, help get information to the counselors that can help you. But talk to your counselors. When you go out to places like this, I see many of the students doing that. Talk to, engage with the people at the table, and go a bit further than that. Once you leave that conversation, if it's something that you're really interested in, Send them an email, call them on the
Follow
phone,
up.
get permission with your parents. Absolutely follow up. Bug your parents, your brother, your sister to take you out to see more and learn more.
I heard a kid earlier. I'm laughing because I heard a kid earlier say, "So what would I send them when I email them?" Well, say it was nice meeting you, and you'd like to stay in touch, and you'd like to learn more about whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely, and find out about other events that they have. Find out about sort of if they have any scholarships or anything like that. Find out if they have internships. Just ask, because you never really know until you engage in the conversation. But for us here at Career Xpl, exploration activities, any experiences that we can help you with, or any enrollment, if you have these enrollment opportunities and you want to find out more about those enrollment opportunities, we can help you have those discussions.
Thanks. Al Hardy, Career Xpl, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us, and it's great to see you here, and always to see you at some of these aviation events.
Well, how about that? Good stuff for aspiring young aviation professionals. Thanks, everyone, for joining our conversation. I hope that this show was helpful. As always, and as with every show, I try to provide as much information and insight as possible into the opportunities and possibilities for any and everyone who has an interest in any and every aspect, you guessed it, of aviation and aerospace. All Things Aviation and Aerospace is presented by Private Air Media. If you haven't already, I would ask that you please subscribe. But until next time, please take care, safe flying, blue skies, and have a good one.